Hi, welcome to Planet Watch. We are gearing up for Pisces with our resident astrologer, Mary Jane Staudenmann. Hi, Mary Jane.
Hello, Christy. Hello, everyone out there.
How are things in Geneva right now?
Cold, but we're having a bit of spring, a little bit too early. The buds are coming out on trees and it's getting kind of scary, but it feels good. everything, everything else is working well. I guess it's climate change that's showing up a little early.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we're getting ready for Pisces. Pisces, of course, the fish. I always associate Jesus, I think, with Pisces. We're getting ready for this new energy coming in. What can you tell us about this time of the year?
Well, the Pisces energy as we live it in the Northern Hemisphere is, of course, the end of winter. But Pisces is a mutable sign. It's a water sign, extremely fertile. Actually, Pisces is the most fertile sign. So when we're wanting to get things done and seeing changes, it's a huge gestation actually that is going on in Pisces. It's also the end of a cycle. Remember, the Pisces is the energy that shows us the end of the spiral. We're getting ready to get into spring and a huge explosion of energy. But Pisces is, way down, low key on a physical sense. On the oral sense and energy sense, it's maybe the highest vibration. And this is the energy that invites us, human beings, to connect with the universe, to connect with the cosmic energies. And this is something that we can never, ever get away from. It's not the easiest energy to get through because as Terrians, we're hooked up to day-to-day getting business done, getting things done, very earthbound kind of activities. Pisces is not built for that, and it doesn't simplify things for us at all. You have to make sure how your decisions are going. Make sure you have all the facts before you get involved with any decision making. It's very difficult. Pisces is an excellent sign for creativity, creative ventures, music, poetry, invention, inspiration,
I
dreams.
also associate Pisces being a water sign with emotions. Is that true?
Exactly, quite. The Pisces births are people who are sponges for emotional situations around them. Again, it's not a terribly comfortable place to be, but they have to deal with that kind of all the time. I think the Pisces births spend a lot of their lives building up some sort of protection. At least you have to hope so, because they are so susceptible to movements around them that occasionally it's extremely uncomfortable to deal with, again, other human beings, other human emotions. They're under a lot of fire.
They sound like empaths.
Uh, yes, yes, there's a lot of that. A lot of media, a lot of mediums are born under the sign of Pisces. Um, Edgar Cayce had an important Pisces uh, implementation and did all of his prophetizing under a dream state, in a dream state or trance state.
And of course, Edgar Cayce is in your book, Desire and
Yes,
Design.
he is.
Right.
Yes, he is. A
Study
huge
on him.
chapter that I've devoted to him because he was such a very special prophet and empath, as you say. New word for me, but I'm hearing it all the time.
Oh,
yeah. So that's what's going on in Pisces. Again, as I say, it's a fantastic period to be plugging into one's dreams, into one's visions, into one's intuition and more inspiration, actually.
right.
And using that. We'll talk a little more in detail about what the possibilities are. But it's especially important this year, these 10 years actually, because Neptune is there. Neptune is the ruling planet of Pisces with Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And Neptune is camping in Pisces. It's been there for 3 or 4 years already, and is going to continue in Pisces for a nice long time. So we have to consider that too, that it's a sensitizing element that Pisces people, also Virgos, I must say, have been bouncing off for the last few years. It's important, and we'll see how it's important early, a little later on. So that's what's happening. The moon is coming, the sun is coming into Pisces then on the 19th of February, coming up right away. And will really set the stage for some pretty interesting movements, I think, that we can talk about now.
You know, and something you said just a minute ago about Neptune has been kind of camped out in one station for quite a while. I think this is important for us to know because we always think of the different zodiac signs, and we think that just the whole conditions change every month or every 28 to 30 days. But that's not true, because there are much larger cycles and much longer cycles.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Pluto takes 240 years to get around the sun. Oh. So he's, his cycle is very elliptic. So he spends between 14 and 24 years in a sign. It's time, we have to get used to it. and it's the slow planets, it's these heavy planets, called heavy planets, the outer planets, that really set the rhythm for civilizations, for generations. And so, we're living our little lives, but we're also bouncing off these generational situations that just don't go away really fast. Right. And that's the situation with Neptune. It's a situation with Uranus. Let's talk about those heavy planets. They're Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We also have to count Chiron in there. He's a little bit special.
Now, Chiron, that's one I'm not very familiar with. What is Chiron?
Chiron is actually sort of a planetoid. Nobody knows if it does asteroidal things. First of all, it's highly irregular ecliptic. It's not at all round, going around the sun. It comes into the ecliptic of Neptune and way out beyond the ecliptic of Pluto. So it's this long kind of ovoid ecliptic. But it seems to be a kind of messenger in between these two energies, in fact. Right. If you go back to Greek mythology, the story of Chiron is fascinating, and that's where the term finally was adapted to this little planet. It's not very big, but it seems to be awfully important. I'll just take a minute because it's a fascinating story. Chiron was a demigod. He was a centaur, and he was the chief head schoolmaster for all the young gods and demigods. He taught them medicine, he taught them music, he taught them martial arts, he taught them philosophy, he taught them everything. He was the chief honcho principal. A fascinating guy, and very empathetic. He was one of the really kind intervenants with the higher gods, arguing for people, helping them out if troubles, especially as young students, one of whom was Hercules. Now, Hercules was, they were practicing martial arts, and Hercules, who was not a very graceful person, as we learn later on, but he managed to plant a poisoned lance in the thigh of Chiron, one of his several thighs. Now Chiron was supposed to die. He was suffering greatly, and he was supposed to die, but as a demigod, he couldn't die. So he went to Zeus and the other gods and asked permission to die, to be let out of his life, let out of his suffering, which was given to him. and he went away to become a star in the constellation of Orion. Well, now what the story has for us as astrologers and as students of astrology is this idea of suffering, of learning from our suffering, and of passing on the messages of our suffering to other people, to helping out other people. This is how sick children become doctors, and how kids from broken homes become social workers, and so on and so forth. We're supposed to be learning, and we're supposed to be giving back what we've learned.
Wonderful.
So that's the message of Chiron. Now, where he shows up in a chart usually talks about tests, about situations that could be crippling, but from which we're supposed to be taking lessons. There are all kinds, as you can well imagine. In every sign and every house, we're going to come up against these problems. But they always show up as a major test in our lives that is supposed to be teaching us something, and that we're supposed to be getting over.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it sounds like that would be very helpful for us in our life path.
It's fantastic. I look so much at Chiron because it explains so many lessons that people don't understand. Where are these? Why are the gods picking on me? It's that kind of a thing, or can certainly feel like it. Why am I handicapped? Why am I always heartbroken? Why am I, whatever.
As poor. Right.
Yeah, totally. And so when we go look at Chiron, we say, okay, you've got to get through this, and you've got to understand it. You've got to digest this problem and give it back. Give it back. So give back the help you can get.
Right. So we we kind of dove into kind of the beyond just the monthly astrological scope. We kind of dove
Right.
into something of a bigger picture. So
Right.
let's go back to what's coming up now. We've got Pisces, of course, and I love that you wore a top that's Pisces colored.
Pisces colored, yes. The aquamarine is one of the stones of Pisces. It's a stone that's supposed to give us intuition and inspiration, as is the amethyst.
Oh, wonderful. I like the idea of pulling crystals into astrology as well.
Oh, yeah. One day, well, there are already books out. One day I'd like to do more work in the octaves, coming from the stars down through animals, down through air, down to stones, down to the earth, down to stones. There are octaves of energy that are related to the planets, that are related to the signs, that are related to locales here on the earth. Different countries, different civilizations have lived under very specific telluric energies. And these are all octaves of the same basic energy.
Right.
I say 12 because that's a number I kind of like, but there are probably more. In any case, pulling these in helps us so much. Well, we see this in alternative medicine, don't we? We plug into the plants that are on our vibration. It's a question of vibration.
Right.
And this, when I'm talking about octaves, I'm talking about central pieces of a type of vibration that are similar, that are going to be exactly the same.
Exactly. Right. From a law of attraction standpoint, we can only reach what is kind of next on our octave.
Sure.
As we work up the chain.
Exactly.
Well, we in addition to Pisces coming up February 19th, we've also got a new moon coming up.
Yeah, we do. The new moon is at 4 degrees. It's already on the 23rd of February. And we'll, I think, kick off some things, some issues that have to be addressed now in this time of Pisces and into the spring. There are a couple that I want to mention that have been very much in the news these last few days. And there's an important there's an important connection between this new sun in Pisces and Uranus that's down here in the first degrees of Taurus. Now we talked about this last time because again, Uranus has been in this space for quite a number of years now, a number of months. Important now because and important in Taurus, it's been much in the news, this notion of landmines. Now, just recently, last week, I was so upset because your president there, Donald Trump, has reneged on the demolition, the abolition of landmines across the world. He and the Russians and the Chinese are the only people who are saying, oh no, the landmines are fine where they are. Landmines. Land is Taurus, mines, explosive Uranus. This is exactly what we're talking about right now. And this issue has been ongoing for a while, but it's coming to a head right now. And to my thinking, this is a horrible problem that has got to be decided. I'm hoping that the UN will come up and say, look, guys, this is not on the cards. You can't undo the movements of all the NGOs, of all the government heads too are coming out against landmines. There are all kinds of movements against these landmines. And this is something that has to be and should be on the cards right now.
Yeah.
That bugs me a lot. There is another issue that maybe people know less about, but that I found equally shocking and equally in tune with this incredible Uranus down here in Taurus, is the refusal of the right to export Palestinian crops. These people are being blocked at the border by the Israeli government. They are no longer allowed to export their very important and very perishable goods throughout the world. They're only supposed to be feeding themselves with all these millions of tons of dates and what did I see, cauliflower. They send all kinds of stuff out, and this is what they do for a living. Right. So the Israelis basically have decided that they can't sell their crops.
Oh no.
This again is something that has to be looked at right now. And it's time, I think it's time for the UN, which shows up as this incredible force that we've seen the last few months, Saturn, Pluto, and now Jupiter down here in Capricorn, are in excellent position to be deciding these things and to be putting in their 2 cents worth in these very important decisions. So this is something that I hope will happen in the new moon. The Pisces energy is supposed to be going toward human understanding, forgiveness, clemency. This is all unconditional love. I mean, this is peace and love time, folks. You know, it's time to be generous with each other. And I think with the help of Jupiter here and these energies going through Pisces, we should be able to see some sort of justice done, justice and clemency.
Wonderful.
It's human. It's time to be human.
Yes.
And think about other people's livelihoods, other people's lives.
Absolutely. So I'm glad to hear that there's some hope there.
Well, there is. I'm hopelessly Pollyanna-ish on a lot of things, but when I see these issues coming up that people are, these stalemates that people are being so glib about,
right,
it really upsets me. I'm sorry, guys. I'll try to keep the subject of astrology, but this is important.
No, I think this is important to mention because we see that not only is astrology, again, our personal zodiac sign, astrology affects the whole world and its movements. And I think it's important to understand that it's not just our own horoscope that we have to think about.
Quite right.
The world's horoscope.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important to remember that the planet Earth is a planet in this situation. There are a few astrologers out there doing other work that is totally geocentric. totally solar centric, so that the Earth figures into this planetary
Right. It
block.
becomes a planet just that can influence us just like the other planets.
Exactly, exactly. And it's time for us to say, maybe the people on Mars are worrying about what we're doing here. It's not only what the stars are doing to us, but what we're doing to the stars. And that's
Right.
something to
No,
think about. I'll
that
tell
is
you.
definitely something to think about. Which I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but we are thinking about what's going to happen in November. We've got a general election in November.
Yeah, yeah. I'm worrying about that already.
Right. What does it look like?
This is again a big parenthesis that you may want to edit out. I don't know, but every time there's a major election here and in other parts of the world, I'm always fascinated. A lot of astrologers and a lot of astrological writing concerns the charts of the candidates. I've not seen, and they usually come out to be about 50-50, right? you know, um, I think it goes beyond that. I think we have to look again at the zeitgeist. We have to look at what's going on in people's minds and in people's countries
Mm-hmm.
to see how they're going to relate to vast conservatism or vast, more socialistic approaches, more
Liberal.
democratic, ways of living. It seems to pass even personalities at that point. It's really what's going on around us that it's going to affect the outcome of these elections. It's not easy. I
No, it's not
want to
easy.
get involved.
Well, maybe we'll get involved in that as we get
Maybe a
closer
little
to that time.
later.
Let's
Yeah,
table that for right now.
exactly,
But
exactly.
true enough that what's going on in the solar system affects some of the political movements here on Earth. With the
Absolutely.
backing out of this landmine accord, and then not allowing Palestinian exports. I mean, that's important to know and understand. I think how the
Oh, yeah,
solar system affects us on a bigger scale than just personal.
for sure, for
So, well,
sure.
speaking of which, and there's
This
saying
said, this said.
which, right? We also have Mercury retrograde coming up, and I know
Yes,
each
once again.
once again we can never get a break here, but I know that every Mercury retrograde has its own flavor, its own
True.
kind of thing it oversees. What do we have coming up?
Well, Mercury is already planted in Pisces. It's in a fairly close conjunction right now with Neptune. Whew,
And when
Mercury
does
in Pisces is already rather special because Mercury doesn't function in Pisces. Mercury is the anti-Piscean planet. Mercury likes to take care of little details and count the beans and communication, head to head, eye to eye, eyeball to eyeball, this kind of thing. Whereas Neptune and Pisces are just way beyond that. So Mercury going through Neptune or going through Pisces is always sort of looking for his keys and wondering what's going on, and very open at the same time to inspiration, to poetic writing. You can get a whole lot done using the inspiration of Neptune and of Pisces. But for practical matters, it's just not really on. So with a Mercury retrograde in Pisces, you have to double your efforts to, keep track of your keys and your papers. And it's an excellent time, as we said, there are always positive things to do here. It's an excellent time to do research. It's an excellent time for fantasy writers to start outlining their next books. People who are living in a dream world or in a creative environment, abstract painters, musicians, writers, are going to get a lot of inspiration and a lot of retro inspiration. This is a time I think we'll see in these next few weeks sort of turn around to oldies but goodies. We're getting back into the 70s and into vintage stuff, and this is right on. It's perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
that's wonderful. And what are the dates of Mercury retrograde?
Well, it's going into return. It's going to be changing signs even. It's leaving the end of Pisces, the beginning of Pisces, and going into Aquarius again. From the 17th,
Hmm.
very soon, um, it begins and will end on the 10th of March. So, and in there, and yeah, and then it comes back direct on the 10th of March. Now, it's changing signs in here between the 4th and the 16th of March, which doesn't have much to do with us, but except for that little parenthesis there that it's where Mercury will be spending its time in Aquarius, it might be a little more useful as far as organizing one's thinking and working and communicating with people. It gets to be a little easier anyway in there. But between the 4th and the 16th of March, then this is where it's leaving Pisces and getting into Aquarius, and then we'll go back direct on the 16th of March.
On the 16th of March.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
One.
it's going to be in a tight conjunction exactly the 30th of March until the 6th conjunction with Neptune. This is interesting. The 30th of March to the 6th of April. This is a tricky time, and we'll talk more about it actually when we get into Aries next month. But it's an interesting time because it's again a time when we can really plug in, and especially in a forward movement, and we're no longer retrograde. It'll be going direct, and this is a time to hit on your dreams, to hit on your meditations, hit on again organizing creative adventures. It's very, very much in line there from that from the 30th to the 6th, that last week in March, first week in April. We'll have time to talk about that. But yeah, it's all of this to say that we've got to be doubly careful about taking care of details, keeping out of signing important papers, keeping out of getting engaged or married, I would suggest, for some other reasons I want to talk about. But just keep your head on your shoulders, really, when we're in this Mercury retrograde business.
Right. Wonderful. So yeah, the next sign is going to be Aquarius. Is there anything else we need to know about Pisces before we get to Aquarius?
Well, the next sign is going to be Aries.
I'm
But
sorry, Aries.
yeah,
That's what I meant. Aries.
right, right. Well, yes, because there's already a movement of Venus that's already in Aries that I found a little bit scary, a little bit worrisome that I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
This Venus right now, as we're getting into the solar ingress, is at 15 degrees in Aries, and is forming a semi-square to the sun. And the semi-square is all of the squares, semi-squares, oppositions are aspects between planets that are conflictual, that
Mhm.
are difficult, that are creating problems, basically. Now, the square from Venus to the sun is going to go on for the next 6 weeks. They're traveling at about the same speed right now, and will continue to make this semi-square 45-degree angle, this semi-square until the end of March.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of time to get used to it. But what's involved? It's important to see what's happening. When Venus is at its farthest degree from the sun, Venus is close to the sun and cannot be more than 45 degrees away from the sun. This is its apogee. When this is the case, and it's happening a long, long time, people who are involved in this by transit, by other or going over their ascendant or in the midheaven, people who are particularly touched by this semi-square have a feeling of being alone. There's a terrible feeling of being misunderstood, unloved, out there in the cold all by yourself. Especially in this position, Venus is going ahead. It's already in the next sign. It's ahead of the sun. So it's doing this pioneer thing. You feel as though you're really out in the cold, and can create, this is going on for the next 6 weeks, so we've got time to get involved. But again, people who are going through this are particularly touched by this movement are going to have relational problems. They may or may not be helping someone. It's just a little basic stuff. The Venus in Aries is pushy. Venus in Aries is aggressive. She's wanting to pull this Pisces energy. She says, I know what's good for you. Let me tell you what's going on. There's a terrible sense of alienation, really. And again, this comes to be a sort of an aggressive misunderstanding. It's not the sad Venus that's behind the sun that says, nobody loves me. I've left it out here in the depths of the rain, and nobody cares. No, this Venus is saying, come with me or else. It's the height of conditional love. Now, this can get you in all kinds of trouble with, the fiance who doesn't want to get married yet, or a sick person in the family who doesn't want to be helped. There's a strong sense of giving people orders, and it's extremely aggravating for people around them. Besides this sense of not being understood, and I know what's best, and let me take care of stuff.
Ultimatums.
Yeah. So this can cause a lot of shadows thrown on a lot of different types of relationships. Venus and the sun both representing issues of love, issues of caring, issues of maintaining relationships. It's difficult, and it's going to stay difficult for a little while. I just wanted to point that out because it's very sticky, and can undo a lot of the schmoozing that was going on last month. Remember when Venus was going through Pisces and wanted to take care of everybody, and now she's saying, I'm going to take care of you, but I'm going to show you how. And it's a different rhythm.
It's a different energy altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, quite.
Well, fantastic. I think that's good for us to know. We just had, we're recording this February 15th, which we just had Valentine's Day. And as you said last month, that this time of year might not be the best time to have Valentine's Day.
Yeah, honestly, it's really a accident, and a terrible accident of birth for this priest, this super saint, to get born in a period of ultimate freedom and liberty and so on. So who knows?
You can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
Really not. Really not.
I really appreciate you giving us the time to look at all of this and what's coming up, what we can expect, what we might be feeling, and how to expect what we might be feeling. I think this is valuable information. And I do want to stress again that if anybody is curious about astrology at all, it really pays to have your birth chart done. You can't just open an astrology book and find your sign and go from there. There's so much more to it.
It's complex, as we've seen, and we will see. But our job is to bring this home and let people get used to the language, first of all, and feel comfortable in the different energies, in the different signs. And that's the way you can learn to expect what's coming on and what's on the cards, basically, where we can work out of.
Right. I think it's very valuable. So if anybody wants to take a deeper dive, well, first of all, read Mary Jane's book, Desire and Design. It's available on Amazon.
It is.
Second of all, make an appointment to get a consultation done. Get your chart done. Well, first get the chart done and then a consultation. You can even do a chart between two people to see what the compatibility aspects might be, either romantic or maybe business partner or something like that. And then also to determine best dates to do things, to sign paperwork, to get married, to get divorced.
Exactly. Exactly. Line up that job interview,
Mhm.
whatever. So,
Wonderful. It's good
yeah,
enough for
yeah,
Nancy Reagan. It's good enough for the rest of us.
exactly. Exactly.
So we can make an appointment with Mary Jane at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. Go to her page or go to our services or go to the appointment tab. And until next time, keep watching those planets. Thank you so much, Mary Jane, for joining me today.
Been a pleasure to be in your company, and keep on rolling. I'll see you in Aries.
See you in Aries.